What's up, everyone? Brian Fanzo here, iSocial fans, tuning in for another episode of iSocial Talks, where I talk about social media, personal branding, pretty much anything that the community is kind of talking about today. And I'm excited to talk today. Not only is it kind of kicking off 2015 as we're halfway through January, but I'm also excited kind of just to talk about tools and technology and a lot of the stuff that we have moving forward. As our podcast launched last month, SMACtalk, S-M-A-C Talk, on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all the places. Loving all the feedback from the podcast. I'm loving the podcast community. Really enjoying this whole new form of media. And today I wanted to talk about personal branding. Probably the question I heard the most last year, without question, was people asking me about the tools that I used and kind of my personal branding strategy. As I pivoted in my career about 2 years ago, what I did to not only grow my social media brand, but also my personal brand, my visibility, getting me noticed for blogging, as well as some speaking opportunities, as well as some working opportunities, and really all the things that fall under your personal brand. So I've talked about where I really think the tools are great, and I wrote a blog post. It came out today called 40 plus social tools for personal branding success, up there at millennialceo.com. Went live today, getting lots of shares and comments back from everybody. I finally went through and spent the time to document, share all of the tools that I'm using, as well as kind of breaking down them into each individual category. And I just wanted to kind of talk for this episode of iSocial Talks to cover really where these tools come into place. So there's not one tool that solves everything in anything we do. I worked in cloud computing, social CRM, social business tools. There's not just one tool that does everything. So I'm a big proponent in finding certain tools that have certain great features, using them, but also integrating them with other tools. And if it's sharing the data, connecting all of the ones across the board. So I was excited to kind of go through all of my tips and tricks, but what I really wanted to show was like, okay, these are the type of things you need for your personal branding strategy to be successful. So the tools, yes, I gave you 40 different tools that I use in different categories, but I hope that people take away the actual strategy around each of these tools, why you need these tools, and then find, even if it's not a tool that I mentioned, find your own tool that can satisfy this need, because personal branding isn't easy, but I believe it's a powerful mechanism today. We're able to be our own salesperson, our own promoter, our own storyteller, and storytelling and your voice is the most critical element of personal branding. But once you find it and understand what your voice is and know how to tell your story, how do you make sure everybody hears it? And I talk about upcycling and getting your blogging content out there so that then you can turn it into videos or infographics or little quotes. And all of those things are great, but you first, of course, need your story and understand what your voice is. And along with that are these tools that I kind of highlighted in my blog post that'll be in the show notes below. But kind of wanted to quickly go through those different categories real quick, just kind of give you a summary of what's entailed. And so the first one I kind of went over was getting a digital home. And what I meant by a digital home is that you need a landing spot for all of your social connections, all of your information to be, because every social network says, give me a website, give me a location to get a hold of you. And we're not really in a business card world as much as the signature on your email. You need a landing spot. And although I went to school for web design and I'm a big fan of websites and work a lot with websites, sometimes websites can get overwhelming. And when I started out, when I made my pivot, I specifically did not create a website. I went and created an account on about.me. And what about.me does is allows you to connect all of your social channels, all of your links, your quotes, allows you to put a blurb up there. But the nice part is that it's not a full-on website where you have to worry about generating SEO and putting blog posts up there and updating all this content. Really, it connects all of your social media accounts into one place. And so then I just put that email address in every social account that I could across the board. And that's a big point, because you need to have a home for all of these things. When someone says, how do I get a hold of you? If you don't have a preferred social media channel, you definitely need a landing spot. And as you grow, as you start blogging, as you start creating your own content, as well as you want to start collecting email addresses and those kind of things, that's when you're going to branch into having your own website. And I now have my own website at isocialfans.com. I'm actually using Squarespace, which I talk about as a tool, kind of an alternative to WordPress that I'm using for my personal website right now. It's really nice. I really using it so that I can learn what it was about. Big fan of WordPress. I manage a lot of WordPress sites for my full-time role, but I really wanted to, I couldn't really talk about Squarespace or say why it wasn't as good as WordPress unless I was using it myself. And so far I've been using it a couple months. Big fan of it. It makes it a lot easier to manage a website. I think it's less about these different unique plugins and all of these components coming together, where WordPress takes a little bit more training, a little bit more effort to get involved. But I do like WordPress. Another one is Rainmaker. It's kind of a new website, but also it really gives you easy ways to do e-commerce. So you can do sales and marketing. So I covered those in the blog post to make sure you guys cover that. The next one I kind of talk about is content consumption, content curation, and content creation. And if you've listened to any of my iSocial talks, I talk about the importance of content in my personal brand, what I'm sharing, because everything you share, every link you click, everything you do is a digital, brick in your foundation of what your story is. So if you're sharing certain content and adding your own insight, that's a great way of sharing your philosophy and growing your brand. But you have to be able to find the content. And there's lots of great tools out there. I use a slew of tools. I recommend kind of finding one or two pieces of specialty tools to find content. I use things like Scoopit and Flipboard and Zeit, and there's Bundle Post, and there's lots of those type of tools. I like Daily from Buffer, another app. But probably the one I highlight the most is a tool called Pocket, which is a read later tool. So every time I find a piece of content that I want to read or that I like or that I want to share, I actually just use the plugin, add it to Pocket, and it adds it to a catalog of every blog post I've ever shared. So not only can I go back and index that, search it, and find what I shared, but if I'm somewhere I want to read something, you can read it offline, you can read them online, they download them. It's a great tool, but you guys can find out a little bit more about that. But it's important to understand content curation, creation, and content consumption, as well as content design. So I kind of talk about my two favorite apps for design, Canva and Word Swag, which you guys can read more about in that blog post as well. The next section I kind of talk about is social scheduling. Lots of different tools do that. I really love and embrace one tool, and you guys can kind of see because I have their values placed up here. And if you follow me, I'm an uber fan of Buffer. So I use Buffer for all of my scheduling across all of my accounts. Just love the interface. I love that it has built-in analytics. It's really easy to use. Sharing graphics on Twitter is super easy with Buffer. So of course I'm a huge Buffer fan. I go into detail about how I use Buffer. I use it with Follower Wonk. I also team it up with another tool that I like for managing Twitter called Meshfire. I also team it up with Pocket and a couple other tools to really fully leverage Buffer. And then I kind of walk down and go, I talk about social engagement and social management. And really what I talk about there is social management means really managing your accounts across platforms, but also the element of really knowing who is following you, who to follow, who's talking about what. So I use TweetDeck a lot for all of my engagement. So all of the Twitter chats I run, everybody always asks what I use. TweetDeck is what I use for that. Love the interface, very easy to use. They have a browser-based version as well as a client for Mac. That's really nice. Twitter bought them a little while ago, and I was glad they didn't kill them off. I'm a big fan of that one. I also love Hootsuite. Hootsuite's without question the most popular social management suite. Lots of options, lots of things you can do: reporting, analytics, scheduling, RSS feed pull in. Lots of great things in there. I like to leverage that for Hootsuite's for social listening, as well as some engaging, also managing other clients' accounts, as well as some personal branding accounts that I kind of look over. It's a great home for all of these different accounts that are spurling out. They all live and land inside of Hootsuite. I also talk about Sprout Social. I'm not using it currently today, but if I was in an enterprise and I was managing a small business or a fairly small to medium-sized business, I would definitely recommend Sprout Social. They have an awesome tool with some great analytics, easy to find conversations. You can understand who you're talking with, when's the last time you talked with them, all of those kind of things. The next element I kind of get into, and I talked a little bit about Twitter management. I also like this tool called Meshfire. It actually puts your Twitter conversations into tasks and almost like an inbox so that you can know when you can engage people, and you can actually assign tasks to other people on your team to make sure that people are engaging and managing the Twitter conversations. I also share a little bit of how I manage the tools for Twitter chats, Tweet Chat, Nerf, Hootsuite, Crowd Chat, lots of great tools on there. You'll kind of guys see that in the blog post. Then I talk about social listening. One of the most important things in my mind is social listening. I use these tools. If anybody posts a blog post, shares my content, or reposts or syndicates any of my blogs on any website, I know about it in real time. I get a email notification or a pop-up on my phone. So I use tools like Mention and Brand24 are two of my favorites. I also use a tool called BuzzSumo that has content alerts. And also, if you're looking for like free or cheap social listening, I love using Hootsuite to have saved tabs with certain hashtags that are my favorite. So I have like social business in there, I have digital, I have iSocialTalks. So the iSocialTalks hashtag is sitting inside of Hootsuite, so I can tell if anybody's talking or engaging about that hashtag, and so I can respond and make sure that I'm listening, because my social philosophy is show you care. So I want to make sure that I'm listening and show I care. The next kind of part I talk about in the blog post for personal branding is social data and really account management. So understanding who's following you, who you're following. Also really believe in the idea of social data. So leveraging that data to build Twitter lists. I use a tool called SpiderCube for that one, another one of my favorite tools, SpiderCube. And I kind of break down these different tools that are available. Manage Flitter, I know, is a really popular one that I really like. Tweepy is another one. I also like hashtag or there's hashtag Tagify and hash tracking, which are great tools to kind of really understand and manage what hashtags are being used, report on them, and then actually see who's engaging on them so you can reach out to them. So if you're looking for someone in a certain industry or certain demographic, or someone that's attached to a certain influencer, you can really engage and have conversations with them. And then I kind of talk about some other tools. With all of those tools I'm using, you have to, of course, have some productivity and some management tools. If This Then That is, without question, one of my favorite tools. I use that on a regular basis for connecting a lot of these tools. Also a big Evernote fan, Trello, Slack, a lot of those tools that are out there right now for collaboration and productivity. I love working with them, with my team, really focusing on ways to integrate it into our workflow. So you're going to read about all of these tools, so don't worry about that from a standpoint if you missed them, I talk too fast, which is always the case. But I wanted to kind of highlight, like, the importance of understanding these categories just as much as the tools. And I know, I'm a tools junkie, so if someone posts a tool post, I usually skip through and see what tools they're talking about that I've never heard of and click on them. But I really hope you guys kind of see where I was going on this. It took me a long while to write this because I wanted to make sure that I was providing value and not overwhelming you. You don't have to use every one of these tools. I don't recommend using every tool, but find tools that fit in your workflow. Some of these tools that I don't even know of would probably be great tools for social listening or social data or scheduling. But I just shared the tools that I use, the reason I'm using those tools, and hopefully you find value on those. So that's pretty much it for iSocialTalks this week. I wanted you guys to really hopefully enjoy that blog post, leave comments. Let me know tools that you guys are using that maybe I didn't highlight in there, and I can check those out. I'll also be breaking down in some more videos in the future on how these tools work, how personal branding, how I leverage them in personal branding, how I find content, how it gets into my buffer to find content every single day, and those kind of things. So I'll make sure to get that out soon so you guys can hopefully grow your personal brand. I had an amazing 2014, but I couldn't have had that amazing 2014, not because of the tools, but because of my community that you guys are just awesome, supported me, share my content, encourage me, inspire me, teach me every day. I feel like I learned something new, if it's a Twitter chat or a hangout or engaging with someone that turns into a social friend and then turns into in real life opportunities. I'm also excited to be at some future speaking events in 2015. I'll be speaking at South by Southwest, as well as some other events that I will be sharing very soon. And hopefully it means I get to engage with you, meet you guys in real person. But remember, social and personal branding takes a lot of effort. And no matter what tool you're using, your social won't replace a handshake. Email won't replace a handshake. No tool will replace a handshake. But if you use these tools correctly, share your voice, tell your story, provide value, those handshakes will lead to more handshakes. And some of those handshakes will turn into hugs instead of handshakes. I'm proof of that. My amazing 2014 was filled full of first time meeting people that I've known for years on social, being able to give them a big hug. Hopefully I'll find you guys out there on the road. As always, thanks for supporting. Thanks for subscribing up there at the YouTubes. And I will be bringing you more iSocial Talks, as well as transforming this into a podcast that is in iTunes, so you guys can listen to all of these episodes in the car at your convenience, and you don't have to look at this face. So with that, check out SMACtalk Podcast, SMAC Talk, SMACtalk. It's in all of the surfing channels. And remember, millennialceo.com is where I have that blog post talking personal branding. You'll find it in the show notes below. Cheers.